Tell you that scams are on the rise. But if you've been paying attention at all, and if you got one of these fancy cell phones, scams are all day, every day. They're not on the rise. They're just less and less detected before they get to you now. And I got to tell you, real estate's no better. We as real estate agents and brokers, we're a target because we're public figures. Everything we have is public. They know who we are. They know what our numbers are. They know where we film. They know where we advertise. They know what houses we have under contract. There's simply no shortage of these fraudsters trying to take advantage of us and our clients. There's a couple of them out there that I want you to watch out for. Some ways we in the real estate community owe it to you to give you some awareness and some collective insight as to how to keep yourself safe. As a real estate agent, you are entrusted with guiding clients through a sale and a purchase transaction, ultimately buying their home. It's likely the most valuable possession that most of us will have, and scammers understand the high stakes that are involved. That's why real estate fraud is so lucrative and can be so devastating. A single fraud scheme can not only derail a closing, but it can also result in massive financial costs on all sides. For those reasons, I think it's important for me to educate and to help you recognize some of the most common real estate scams that are out there so you and your client can be protected and be proactive in avoiding some of these things. Position yourself as your client's first line of defense. You are the barrier between them and what's coming next. You need to educate them on some of the early warning signs, such as forged documents, unverified identity, companies demanding large upfront deposits for short timelines. Doing things like this and being aware, and for that matter, being a little bit overly cautious will help you safeguard the transaction and ultimately reinforce the trust and the confidence that your clients have already placed in you. We're going to talk about a few of them. We're going to talk about wire fraud. We're going to talk about mortgage relief. We're going to talk about loan flips, moving scams, some rental scams that are out there, disaster contractor scams. We are that one's very popular in Florida. How you report a scam, and then we'll talk about how some of the frequently asked questions that we're going to get hit with while we're in here too. So let's start from the top. Let's talk about wire fraud. That's probably the big one. Wire fraud occurs when someone is tricked into sending their funds to a fraudulent bank account. And in real estate, this commonly happens either near the closing process when large amounts of money are being transferred, typically hundreds of thousands of dollars, or in the early escrow stages when they first see a contract or a property go pending. They'll try to get as much information publicly as they can so they can start sending notices on where to send your escrow deposit to secure your transaction. Wire fraud's incredibly risky, mainly because once the funds have been moved or received at the wrong place, it can be almost impossible to recover. It happens usually when a scammer gains access to the email of account or one of the key players of a closing process is again publicly listed, so it's easy for them to be misrepresented. It's typically is a title company or an individual responsible for sending out wiring instructions like a coordinator. And once that scammer has gained this access, they're going to send an email to your client with wiring instructions to the fraudulent account. From the client's perspective, they typically have no reason to question the legitimacy of the email, especially if they see it's coming from a title company or a closing agent that they expect they're going to be working with anyway. According to Certified ID, this type of fraud has become increasingly rampant over the years. It has surveyed a wide range of title companies. Out of those that responded to that, 17% of the title companies discussed had sent funds to an incorrect address because of the result of some kind of fraud. Half of those happened multiple times. Additionally, more than 1 in 4 home buyers have reported receiving some form of suspicious or outright fraudulent communications during the closing process. All that to say, scammers know that once a successful attempt happens, it's a gold mine given the dollars amounts that are involved. So, super important that you and your clients stay vigilant. The most important thing for you to keep in mind is to verify the identity of all the people that are involved. So, the ones sending you instructions to confirm the instructions, you need to pick up the phone call and call them. Hey, Sarah at Title Company X, did you send me an email with transfer instructions? This is what the transfer instructions say. Is this what came from you? Can you explain it to me or walk me through what you sent me in an email? Obviously, don't call Sarah that's listed on the email. You need to either call your real estate agent or you should know who the title company is that you're working with to call Sarah directly and find out what's going on. As an example, I know people that personally closed on their home in Texas. This was in 2022. They took time out of their day to actually physically drive to the title company's office. They verified the office's address using the company's website. They met with a representative at the title company and then had them physically hand me the wiring instructions, right? That all might seem a bit much considering the digital age, but whatever you have to do to protect your monies, I suggest you do it. There is no reason for you to instantly transfer funds somewhere. There is never a timing in the real estate process that you don't have time to validate or verify. Considering that wiring amounts usually range into hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time, I think it's well worth the peace of mind of knowing that the funds are being wired to the correct recipient. So take the time and the trouble. We use kind of a two-voice verification here at Keystone. So not only do you need to call me, and I have verified the funds transfer information from the title company that's assigned, but we're also going to get the title company on the phone with us, and they're going to verify for both of us that all of these details are correct. The next scam that is super popular is mortgage relief. The mortgage relief scheme targets homeowners that are in danger of losing their homes, whether it's for non-payment of their mortgage obligations or for some other reason. But scammers will typically pose as a foreclosure specialist, someone that can negotiate reduced payments or fees with the homeowner's lender. In exchange, the homeowner will just have to pay an upfront fee for them to negotiate these things through, to pay for my representation. So instead of providing a promised service, however, the scammer simply takes the money and run. Scammers can typically find the victims through publicly available data, such as mailing lists and foreclosure notices and public declarations on the court system site showing that pre-foreclosures have been filed. Less commonly, they might actually go door to door, sending emails and text messages, and even send some snail mail that are designed to look very official. Scammers will offer a description of their services that they are allegedly able to complete for you before they even ask for payment. They are sales. They will describe what they are asking for or what they are able to perform for you in great detail because they've done it for 500 clients before you. 500 completely unassociated folks that are in a bad situation are now about to be in a worse situation. Mortgage relief scams probably happen a lot more than we would like to admit. According to the FTC, thousands of these reports are filed every single year, but the figure could actually be higher. There's a lot of pride and embarrassment that would go into people not wanting to report it publicly, and especially embarrassment and fear of losing their home. One example case, FTC sent more than $1.2 million in refunds to customers who lost money to customer defense in deceptive mortgage modification schemes, for example. Going back even further, a 2022 report made by the Office of the Inspector General, the IG, said that over 1,000 victims lost almost $3.8 million to scammers offering to provide them assistance with FHA loans. How do you avoid it? Simple answer here is trust but verify. There are genuinely a lot of people out there and a lot of services out there that can help you. However, you need to validate the people that are actually offering the service. Don't take their word for it. Don't feel pressured into giving them anything up front before you've done your research and your due diligence. Legitimate companies rarely guarantee results. Pressuring you up front for payment or requiring that you cease communication with your mortgage lender because that will just make things difficult is a red flag. If you got questions, you need to work directly with your current mortgage lender using verifiable contact information. You use it from the lender's website. Simply and similarly, you can also consider it a HUD approved counselor, depending on the type of loan that you have. But there are people directly involved with loan modifications and loan practices, but you need to remember the mortgage holder is ultimately the power that be. So if you think you're working with someone legit, call and say, hey, I have a company that's offering me this and this and this. They are going to be contacting you and see if they have heard from them. And you know, God love the internet. It's if you Google most of these places and you Google most of these people's names, chances are somebody has listed somewhere, hey, this is a scam. They stole money from my grandmother, they stole money from my dad, or they stole money from you. It's important for them to recognize and to be recognized. And it takes nothing but a fast internet search for you to find a lot of these scammers. Probably the third biggest one would have to be loan flipping. Loan flipping, it's a predatory practice. A lender convinces a homeowner to continuously refinance their mortgage without any material benefit. So each time this happens, additional fees are charged in the form of either closing costs or a higher interest rate or a less favorable repayment term. But this will help get you on track, right? Homeowners might be tricked into only seeing the short-term benefit. And with long-term risks being so cleverly veiled, it's difficult for people to understand where they're truly being scammed. And in the long run, they're going to lose more money than in the situation that they're in currently. This type of scam can absolutely result in homeowners losing equity and inability to reduce their debt to ultimately pay it off. Note that this is very different from a typical mortgage loan refinance that offers material benefit in the form of gaining access to home equity or lowering your permanent interest rate or reducing your monthly payments for the lifetime of the loan. So understand if there's no benefit other than I've got some late payments, I want to get back on track, or I am in the process of foreclosure and I want to be able to refinance to get me back on track. These are typically the weak positions that they will reach out to try to take advantage of you. This type of scam may be difficult to spot because it's typically carried out by legitimate mortgage companies and loan officers, but they specialize in this type of refi. In many cases, homeowners with a significant amount of equity are the ones that are targeted because it's an easy refinance opportunity and the funds can be easily cloaked inside of that equity availability. They're often more able to secure mortgage loan approvals as well, so the paperwork goes fast and furious. Scammers are hiding the downsides of proceeds with a refinance. They highlight only the positives. So you're going to need to be clever and you're going to need to have to ask the right questions. And if not, you talk back and work back with the realtor that you spoke with originally. They will be incredibly versed in these types of things and will absolutely be able to plug you into other loan mortgage counselors. And if there's an opportunity out there, nothing wrong with you competing rate. So go out there, talk to another mortgage professional and say, hey, this is what I'm being offered. Does this sound legit to you? And is this something you can do better? How often does this one happen? This type of scheme happens probably more frequently when there's a significant change in interest rate. Elderly homeowners specifically have a higher level of risk. They are viewed to be more vulnerable, more susceptible, or easily influenced by these deceptive marketing practices. In June of 2024, the FBI released a statement revealing that it had seen more than $1.6 billion in losses from just January to May for elderly abuse and related fraud, increased by almost 300 million from the prior year. So this scam is on the rise and is something that you should absolutely educate your clients for. Even potential clients that may be putting their home on the market or have been looking to use the equity of their current home to buy their next home. How do you avoid it? You need to be aware of any lender that asks you repeatedly to refinance in a very short amount of time. That's your red flag, ultimately. This is especially true if there is no clear benefit. If they cannot show you short term and long term benefit to you doing the refinance, simply don't do it. Make sure you understand all of the fees, all of the terms. Get a preliminary statement so that you can see what the expectations are and compare them to your current situation. And again, get a competitive or at least an unbiased third party individual to review if you're not certain. No, not Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. We don't take his advice. He's not in mortgage. Just because he's bought 15 houses in his lifetime does not make him an expert. You need to go talk to someone that's in the field. Go talk to your bank. Go talk to someone you can trust that's in the financial services field. For something like this, you should always consult a a trusted financial advisor. Um, Lately, I'm seeing moving scams are also on the rise. Moving scam can occur when a moving company deviates from the original agreed terms. So this can take forms of drastically rising prices, refusing to give back personal belongings until these fees are paid, ultimately hijacking all of your stuff that they have moved you with. And if you didn't sign a form dictating these prices and dictating their terms, the T's and C's, before they picked up your stuff, you are certainly putting yourself at risk. I don't care if they're your neighbor's moving company. You need to be more aware of the risks. It can also occur if a moving company simply disappears with no trace and they just steal your things. Scammers will entice the victims by offering incredibly low pricing, very vague terms and conditions, and require just a large upfront deposit so they can make sure that once they've picked up your belongings, they're in a stronger position to hold things hostage until they milk the homeowner for everything that they want. Happens way too often. ABC News in 2024 did a live report on this one. Moving scams have an estimated cost to consumers of more than $1.5 million a year. Certainly, it's on the rise. It represents a 42% higher than in 2023. And the data from DocShipper supports this increased trends. It's referencing an increase in moving fraud of 35% since 2024. Victims losing an average of $2,800 for every single moving incident. You can see how that adds up pretty quickly. Moving scams tend to peak in the spring and the summer when individuals are most likely to be relocating. And like it or not, my Northeastern friends, it's happening mostly in the Northeastern area because so many of you move down here with us in Florida. So it's easy pickings to, hey, we understand you might be moving soon. We heard from your neighbor that you're looking to move down south or you're a snowbird or whatever. We can move you on the cheap. We're looking to expand our business in the area. How can we help each other, right? How do you avoid it? You got to verify everything. Moving companies being used, it must be properly licensed, it must be properly insured before you book or you pay any fees to them. Also, consider reading the customer reviews from multiple reputable websites. Getting multiple quotes and ensuring that the fees you're being given in the industry norms, any outliers, that should throw you some red flags when you've got 3 or 4 different bids out there and this one that talked to you at your front door when they were door knocking is $4,000 cheaper. Something's wrong. Either they're not considering something because they don't know their business, or they're a scammer and they're about to hit you once they've got your stuff. Rental scams are on the rise again. Now that we have such a huge growing rental market because of still the higher price of interest rates are putting people in a position where they cannot or will not buy because of the high expense of borrowing money. Rental scamming is a scheme where scammers trick others into paying deposits and then offer fees to secure housing. However, in actuality, the property either doesn't exist or it wasn't authorized by the property owner to be rented. So ultimately, it's not even available to rent. This happens because companies like Zillow put every single place on the market. These scammers go in and they see these houses are just came up for sale. So they take and they copy all that information and they put it on a different site or put it on Craigslist or something like that as for sale or rent. And if they contact you, because people would love to move into a big beautiful home that normally they couldn't necessarily afford to buy, these scammers take advantage of, hey, I need to have your first and last month's deposit while I negotiate the rental terms for you. Here's a copy of the lease we're going to be going over, blah, blah, blah. They give you fake email addresses. They use burner phone numbers. Ultimately, they can take legitimate rental listings and copy them. They can change key details like contract information, rental pricing, make it very attractive, then post it on these websites so that the potential victim makes a contact, pressured into quick payments and deposits to secure the property. Usually people that are in a situation where they need to move quickly don't have time to verify. So once a payment's been processed to the scammer, they simply vanish without delivering keys or access to the property. As a report by Rently Company, 2023 alone, the FTC showed more than 10,000 rental scams had been reported. Better Business Bureau also showed about 45% increase in these rental scams within the last 2 years. How do you avoid it? Again, never send money, never provide sensitive, personally identifiable information before verifying the property exists, before verifying that it's actually available for rent. If you see it on one site, you should be able to see this property on another site. If it's showing the rent in Zillow, if it's showing the rent in realestate.com, if it's showing rental in homes.com, call the realtor directly that's supposed to be representing the property. If you're seeing different names or contact numbers on different sites, chances are you found a scam. Be wary of the prices too. If it seems too good to be true, if you're finding a $2,000 a month, 5,000 square foot house on the water in Florida with a boat and a boat dock, chances are you're being scammed. Be wary. Prices seem to be too good to be true. Again, they definitely are. And landlords, by the way, that refuse to meet you in person or anyone trying to pressure you into making payments quickly, chances are huge red flag. Disaster contractor scams. Typically, I would be talking about this one in great detail during the hurricane season here in Florida, but we have, knocking on wood very loudly, we have had a good year. We have had some very difficult hurricane years for the last 5 years. It is glorious to just have some cooler weather moving in without a storm right behind it. The disaster contractor scam typically happens following these types of events, always some type of natural disaster. A contractor approaches a homeowner, they will typically walk a neighborhood. They promise to, hey, I can help you repair and you rebuild. Again, I'm trying to get as much business as possible. I can't compete against these big contracting companies. Secretly, they may have never actually intended to follow through with the repairs and may not even do so. And if they do, it's shoddy workmanship, but they're going to get their money up front. They're going to pressure the homeowners to reserve their spot by paying some type of upfront cash or deposit. Or, hey, can you pay me now for the materials? I'll go get the materials and then I'll come back and do the service and you can pay me for the service work. If it's enough money, trust me, they're leaving. You'll never see them again. And it's going to take more than your ring cam to catch them. Ultimately, they're also relying on the homeowner's sense of urgency and the desire to get back to a normal life. they're going to make it really easy to fall prey to these schemes. And your neighbors are going to help this situation because everybody likes to know a guy. Your neighbor's going to say, "Oh, yeah, I talked to that guy a couple of weeks ago. Hey, he's pretty good." May not have ever actually done any work. Or worse, the guy actually came in, did some legitimate work for house A, advertised at houses B, C, and D using house A as a reference, and then he's picking up on quick cash. Last March, for instance, my very neighborhood was hit hard by some storms we weren't ready for. Nearly every single homeowner ended up with some type of roofing repair or something. For months following these types of incidents, the neighbors will be contracting companies, frequently knocking on doors trying to sell roof repair services. Um, in our neighborhood, we've we've had infestation scams. So one house has a problem with bats, for example. Well, bats move. We're all going to have problems with bats. And they will literally, while they've got the ladders in front of the house that they're treating, solicit all the houses around them for preventative maintenance. Legitimate or not in their intent, it's a scam. You are ripping people off that don't have a problem. So you need to be conscious. You need to be careful, uh, and in awareness of how often it happens, there is actually an AICPA, the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. 37% of Americans have experienced some sort of fraudulent activity, um, especially after a natural disaster, from California all the way to Florida. Every time there's a hurricane, every time there's a fire, every time there's smoke damage, every time there's a water main that bursts. Trust me, there's 15 scammers out there behind one good person that legitimately just wants to do good quality work because they're a craftsman and that's how they take care of their family. Of that 37%, 28% of those respondents reported that fraud consisted of contractors, insurances, and vendors. How do you avoid it? Just don't feel pressure to select a contractor immediately. Don't pay any money up front. They need to write out an official estimate, check out all the numbers and the addresses of the estimate itself. Don't have something that's just scribbled on a piece of paper and then they rip it out of their little notebook while they're sitting at the door and hand it to you. Door-to-door solicitors, while not always a result of scammers, should be taken with a grain of salt. It is way too easy for you to advertise between social media and between the internet itself. There's no reason for people to advertise door to door anymore. It's also recommended that you shop rates with multiple contractors so that you really ensure you're not getting overcharged, and be wary of getting undercharged. How do you report these scams, Alex? Because they happen. It's a real thing. Where do I go? It is an unfortunate reality that real estate scams are going to continue to be a growing problem. Thieves are clever, right? I I hasten to bring it up, but for somebody to be able to rip off the Louvre, supposedly one of the most secure museum facilities in the world, in less than 10 minutes, I mean, that tells you we get comfortable, we get a little too lax in our preparations to be protective of ourselves and our things, and it creates opportunity for people to take advantage. It's a growing problem, and as long as we have a consistent real estate activity and we have these types of disasters on the rise, it's going to be more and more common. As a real estate agent, you should play a role in this, reducing the likelihood of your clients, especially, falling a victim to frauds. Don't just educate people on common scams, but also report the suspected fraud and immediate appropriate entities for your clients. Send them this video, send them this clip, make sure they understand. Hey, by the way, Alex over at Keystone did a really good episode on some of the frauds that are on the rise right now. While we're out there trying to protect ourselves in a very expensive economy today, the last thing you need is to be ripped off too. So if you or a client encounter a potential scam, here are the steps that can be taken. Number one, report to the FTC. FTC's website will allow you to report any fraudulent incidents, something that can allow you to potentially take a next step. This will allow you to protect the community against frauds, scams, and bad business practices. As long as the fraud's being investigated, those people will be advertised as fraudsters, and it'll keep them from doing it again. Two, report to your local or state police offices. On top of reporting to the federal level, your local and state board have other specific responsibilities, and they will review and address these fraud schemes too. Residents of Florida can file a complaint online with the Attorney General's office and then directly with the local PD or local sheriff's office if you live a little out of town. Contacting your local law enforcement will also apply in all cases, and it'll put you in a situation where you can develop a better relationship with the police department while you're seeing these kinds of things. If it happened at one house, chances are it happened in other houses in your community, and they will help you spread the word. File a report with the FBI. The FBI runs an online internet crime complaint center, the IC3, and its primary use is for cyber-enabled crimes. So if someone's trying to take advantage of you or rip you off based on online activities, that's the first place you can go for that. And then, of course, anytime these kind of situations happen, notify your local bank, notify your credit card companies. If you or a client is directly impacted by fraud or any type of scam, you need to make sure to connect all the dots too. So the banks and the credit card companies that may have been involved need to be contacted immediately so they can determine if these fraudulent funds can be recovered and so that they can alert their other constituents and clients and customers how to avoid these kinds of things. Which, of course, brings us to the most popular question in this situation. Is it possible to recover monies lost in a real estate scam? Certainly nothing is impossible, but it's difficult, extremely difficult. It also depends on the method in which you sent the funds. Wiring funds, for instance, can be incredibly difficult to reverse, especially if the scammers have already moved the money. Funds sent via credit card, on the other hand, can allow you to take advantage of your credit card's company's protective services policies and can help you reverse these kinds of things. As far as monies directly from a bank or checks that have been written or using a bank debit card, you're going to need to go to each of your banks, and your banks have their own individual policies on how they handle these things. Can a scammer list my property without my knowledge? Yes, yes. In fact, it's incredibly easy to do. Real estate agents have already done the work for them. Scammers simply steal the photos from online. They do little cropping pictures of them, put it on another website with their contact information or a false real estate agent's contact information. Should this happen, you're going to get unexpected visitors expecting to be able to move into the property. Get ready for it. First off, in today's day and age, you need to be a little more careful in just opening the door because anybody that rings the doorbell, I realize Amazon, UPS, the Postal Service, all ring your doorbell every time they drop off a package, although they don't need anything, which is ridiculous. But we'll talk about that another episode. But because of that, people have a tendency, especially my older folks that are on the call today, you got a tendency to open the door because back in your day, it was a safe thing to do. Today, please don't. It is probably the easiest way for someone to break into your home is when you open it up and let them in. Can scammers steal my identity from public real estate records? Yes. Yes. No question. Public records contain an insane amount of personal identifiable information, PII. This is your name, your signatures, copies of signed documents or public information, mailing addresses, and more. This information can be used in part to identify how easy it would be to steal from you, and they can socially engineer with all the information that they find. And if you think that's not enough, then they go stalk your Facebook and they learn who your friends are and who your family is. And they can drop the right names in the right conversation and absolutely feel like they know you. They are fraudsters. They know how to do their job. You need to be able to minimize your risk. You can sign up for creditor monitoring services. You can limit the amount of other personal information that you share online, but ultimately, you just got to be smart enough to know that people are typically out to take advantage of you, and you just need to be smart enough to verify everything. And if they're not quick to give you answers, or they're not quick to be able to prove in writing what they're doing that's verifiable, you can pick up the phone right in front of them and say, hey, I just need to call and check you out because we get scammers all the time here. If they were haul ass, guess what? You got one. Take his picture on the way out. So let's wrap it up. Real estate scams aren't going anywhere. In fact, they've become much more commonplace over the years. By you staying informed and by educating yourself and your clients, for my realtors that are listening, you're going to be able to provide much more value in just helping them buy and sell properties. You're going to be able to help them protect their finances, protect their possessions, and overall peace of mind and protecting their families. On an industry that's built on relationships and trust, that is going to be what stands you apart from others. Be safe out there, guys. A lot of people are going to be knocking on doors for Halloween this week. Take care of the little kids in the neighborhood. Let's try to get that great community spirit back into the hearts and minds of our communities. But let's be vigilant, protect each other, watch out for your neighbors, watch out for your families, and let's be smart out there. Have a great day, everybody. For those of you that celebrate, happy Halloween.